for young guys who get a star rating, at the end of the day, the stars are cool. This is identifying where you could go for college or like your level in the college recruiting system. But does that mean your ultimate success in football? I'd say no. I mean, Evan, you're in the NFL. You can talk to it right now.
I would say, you can have what's up, Coach? Glad you're joining us. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Zach,
Good to see you, Caleb.
So we were just diving into the whole, does a successful U19 athlete translate into the men's game? And I was going to say there are plenty of kids who have a lot of success as they're young, and then they go to that next level and they kind of think, hey, I can do those same things that I did when I was little, and that'll have me be successful at the next level. And some kids, at the youth level, they're really good, but they don't have that growth spurt. And when you don't have that growth spurt, the muscles, they don't come when you don't grow, so you're stuck at that same speed. I was watching a video. I don't know if you guys remember that Pop Warner kid. He wore number 5, and he had this was when YouTube first started. He had the ultimate running back highlight tape, was cutting and everything. And
Chris, it was like Paul something. I know this kid.
Exactly. And he never got bigger. So it's he had a dominant youth film. I mean, and if you Google him, everybody has seen that film where that kid's just dominating his Pop Warner. And they're he had an offer from USC when he was in middle school, but
he was 13 with an offer from USC. He was 5'6", 5'7". I remember that.
Exactly, but he didn't get bigger. So it's that doesn't translate. Your body has to grow as the other kids grow, as the game grows, so that's my take on that. It doesn't translate.
Doesn't translate into okay. Coach, well, what do you say? Well, first, let me introduce Coach Harrod. I know he came in right in the middle. He's doing home office. This is Zach Harrod, head coach, Prague Lions. More than head coach, he's an influential person in Prague with the club, doing some great things. I just had the Zoom meeting with coaches from not Cal Poly, excuse me, University
UC Davis.
UC Davis. Mm-hmm.
Last weekend.
Yeah, and we're going to be having another one with Wojtek on Thursday and some more. Hopefully we'll get the schedule out so you guys could share it. We got a bunch of coaches, some former NFL guys and whatnot, just trying to take advantage of another lockdown and get better, right? So
exactly.
Evan, maybe we could get you on there too. Now that we've been formally introduced.
I'll be more than happy to jump on. I was just telling Caleb, with the COVID, it's allowed guys to communicate in ways they never thought they could. Coaches are learning how to communicate from a distance. The beautiful thing about the COVID, I said, with Zoom, you're able to connect with coaches like you never thought you would, in your living room at home while the kids are going crazy. You still can learn a little bit, so.
Thankfully, my children are both in their beds right now, so you can't hear them. I mean, that's how Caleb and I met each other because of the first crazy lockdown. So I was recently telling some of our social media crew and some of the people in management with the Lions that, hey, restaurants, business owners and our team, and even us as coaches, if those who are going to succeed are the people that make the most of this crazy time. So I could choose to just, this is horrible and feel bad. And, we lost all this sponsorship money. We didn't get to do this year. We could have defended, blah, blah, blah. Or just be like, hey, it is what it is. And I'm going to get better. So that's what we're trying to do. Doing a lot of different things right now, keeping busy. But this is an interesting discussion. Caleb and I have had this discussion on WhatsApp a few times, Instagram, whatnot. I've had this discussion with Desmond Cooper, too, up there in Denmark, just because it's interesting, especially with you guys with what you're doing with Europe's Elite and all these other things happening with recruiting going around. It's really interesting to follow these European kids and follow their mindset. I've been in Czech almost 16 years, and I mean, I still see the same things I saw when I arrived here 16 years ago out of a D3 program, UW Oshkosh, where, yeah, you talk about kids not hitting their growth spurt. I hit my growth spurt in college, which deterred me from anything else happening in my football career other than D3. I'm very, very thankful for my time at Oshkosh, but it is what it is. But I see it. It's been interesting ever since I've set foot in Europe. I think the majority of these European kids, even though that things have changed now and we have education and whatnot, everybody thinks it's so easy. Like it's not easy, you know? I mean, even to become a starter at a solid D3 school, from all the people we have in the States that are competing and playing football from like 8 years old or younger, like a lot of guys just don't get it. And recently I was having a conversation. I had this conversation with two of our guys here that both have aspirations. And I said, hey, what I've heard from Caleb, what I've heard from Des, you need, if you want a chance to play football in the States, a coach needs to turn on that tape and see that you are the guy. That no one else exists. So when I think about this, it's really interesting. The question is, if I think about it, like here in the Czech Republic, I think about a guy dominating at the U19 level, comparing that to a young guy being good at the senior level. Whew, it's tough. I'd say, in fact, in fiction on this, I couldn't even do that on your little poll there. I was like, how do I even answer that? Because of course I see it being a coach here in the Czech Republic and our talent here, right? Like,
right, yeah. I mean, you had a guy go over to what's my man's name? He just got drafted by the Edmonton Eskimos.
Yeah, Alan Pay.
Alan Pay. He went to college in Ottawa, struggled with that position for a moment, as he admitted, but he still progressed, developed as a player, and now he got drafted by the Edmonton Eskimos. Shout out to Alan. But just his growth pattern, right? Thinking on Alan when he was 18, 19 years old in Czech, okay, you're this long arm, learning how to play football. Like, oh man, you could be a good player with high potential, which it turned out for the best for him. Like,
yeah, really. And Alan's situation was unique. He didn't start football until his early 20s.
That's right.
And I remember he came. We call it a nabor. He came to our first nabor recruiting practice, and we couldn't even be on the field at where we practiced because there was a double booking. So we're up on this little grass spot up there, and it was kind of embarrassing. And I see this guy moving around, and I'm like, who's this guy? Like, I did not think he was a Czech. He doesn't look like a Czech. But then he starts speaking to me, and he was like, no accent, no goofy accent like me or anything, you know. And I'm just like, oh okay. And he was raw, but I mean, you could just see that, like, there was just something that separated him. And I mean, even as a first year in the senior league, I think he was 21 maybe. I mean, he just was. He was an athlete like we hadn't had before. And then having a guy like James Brooks there when Alan was there too really helped, I think, Alan in his progression too, because you have a guy who played Division I football, was played throughout Europe in different places in Japan, just as a force, and a lot of those things that just worked out for Alan, you know, when he came, as far as what we had within the club. So, yeah, I think if you look at his situation, I mean, he's just an athlete like we haven't had.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. So,
and that separates him.
To answer the fact or fiction question, then I guess from just going from what we're gathering with the Czech scene, if one of your 19-year-old players is dominating, 18-year-old players, he's dominating in Czech, would you say his dominance is just as good as Alan's dominance when he got up to the men's level?
No.
It's fiction. So it's not the same. It's not the same.
It's not, because I mean the difference is you're playing against men or boys.
Exactly.
And for a young guy who's still young, and technically he's not a boy, but he's more of a boy than a man.
Yeah.
Doing something amongst men, that is far, far more impressive than a U19 guy just dominating like a bunch of kids who could be 2-3 years younger than him, right? And who could just be in the beginning of football completely. It's
But what about So this question goes to both of you guys. So for the guy who we see it throughout Europe, he's 18, 19, 17 sometimes, and he's dominating at the men's level in his country. I've seen some receivers that it's like, man, you're 17 years old and you're a starter in Germany, you're a starter in Spain, you're a starter in Denmark, all these places, and they're ballers. So Evan, as an NFL, now you've seen NFL, college, Europe, and high school scene. Like, what would your colleagues in your eyes say to that question?
A young guy dominating at the men's level in Europe. I think it depends on the league. I was fortunate when I played in Frankfurt. I played with a guy named Loreno Walsh, and he was dominating with the Vienna Vikings, I think, since he was about 16 or 17 at the receiver position. And he was by far, when he came to us in Frankfurt, I think he was about 20. He's by far the best skilled position player, European player I've ever seen. He high point the ball, he had speed, he had agility, and he worked hard, he blocked, he did everything. And I think it really depends on where you are. If you're in one of those top divisions, if you're in France, you're in Germany, you're in Austria, you're in Sweden, I think if you're dominating at the men's level, and you've got a shot to play college football, you've got a shot to join the international program. But then again, it also depends on, those intangibles, because the higher you go, the bigger the guys are, the faster the guys are. Can your body withstand everything that's going to happen to you? I mean, the weightlifting, the hits you're going to take, and then are you disciplined? Because that's a huge thing when you get to the next level. Can you be disciplined enough to say, hey, this is what I'm going to put in my body. I'm going to wake up at this time every day. I'm going to have a routine, and that's what it's going to be. Because we even see it here in America, where we have these kids who are so gifted and so talented, but as they're so gifted and so talented, they get lazy or they get complacent. They don't put in the extra work to keep them elite. So then they just become good. And I think when you're coming internationally, you have to always put in my mind, I have to be elite. I cannot be good. I have to be elite.
Yeah, Coach Hare, what would you say?
Man, what can I add? I was like, hey, man, keep it going. No, oh man. I mean, I think of some guys we have here, and I think, I mean, I would even, some of the other countries you guys listed, I would add check to that. If there's a 17, 18-year-old kid, and we've seen some in the last couple of years in the senior league here. David Salta in Vysočina with the Gladiators, or we have a guy, Lukáš Kadlec, two receivers, two very different receivers. One's a fast little white guy, one's a tall, fast white guy. And both these guys in different situations, because Lukáš, our guy, was, I mean, we had three men in front of him, right? Like at the other positions. And David didn't have as much competition with his team, but both these guys, you look at their first full years in the senior leagues, and both these kids are just balling out and doing things. Lukáš, for us, he set up the 50-some yard reception to help us win the Czech Bowl last year, and he's 17 and running by guys that are grown men. And I think of these guys, and there's so many different factors in it, and it obviously depends on what country you're in and whatnot, too. Not because of the level of play per se, but just the other tangibles. How's the English? What does the kid really want? Does this kid really want to go to America? Does he, or is he realize, okay, I'm good, I might be able to get something, but if I can't get a full ride, I can't afford that. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things. There's been some things circulating. I think I've seen even you guys chime in on them, about guys from Europe going D1 and the guys that go D2, D3, etc. And I think it's kind of sets up this thing for these European kids that, hey, if it's D1, I'm, it's nothing. Yeah. But there's great, like, I mean, I'm a D3 guy and whatnot, but I think of D3, D2, NAIA. There's some great opportunities out there for kids to do great things. But there's all these other factors. Like I told a kid recently, hey, if you want to do this, you realize it's going to be tough. You got to think through, okay, this is going to cost you money.
Your parents.
Because you might have, exactly. You might have to go the JUCO route.
Yeah.
Because situation wise, you got to think about your clock counting on eligibility. There's just so many factors for these kids. Mm-hmm. And it'd be great. And I'm thankful for you guys, especially because I really feel like you guys do more to educate kids, whereas there's all these different things. I'm not speaking of anybody else specifically or specific individuals, but I just see it. And I have other coaches here in the country and elsewhere in Europe ask me, like, what do you think about this? And it's just like, man, the key, like with everything we're talking about, is just education, helping kids understand things and realize, and saying to so many kids, I said, hey, the best way for you to go play ball in the States is to just kill it on every freaking exam you have the grades, because if you being a foreign kid and having good grades and speaking great English, that could get you at any level. You might not have it at the D1. I mean, I was a pretty decent player when I was playing with the Lions. We went up and competed with some GFL teams, and I was like, okay, I played against some guys who played D1 football, and I held my own. I'm like, okay, well, woulda, coulda, shoulda, So like the parity you just see is it does exist, and it really just comes down to those intangibles and being in the right spot in the right moment and everything just lining up. And I think people just need to hear that, and people need to be more educated in it and think outside the box. I think that's one thing, right? We've talked about in this year of 2020. I think we all need to just think more and outside the box and try to think of how do we make this happen in a way that's going to work for me.
100%. No, I think both of you guys hit it right on the head. The fact of fiction question, at the end of the day, it is fiction. And my vote, these other coaches here have voted their own based on country. Coach Harris gave a lot of education there on it being fiction as well. It's just not the same. You're dominating at U19 youth level. It's not the same as a player being good at the next level, because you're playing against boys versus men. It does vary on the education that you're receiving in the country, not just like, oh, I live in country X and everyone runs 4-2, in country Z everyone runs 4-4. How are you being developed? Comes down to it, right? And to Coach Harris' point, yes, it's not D1 or bust. There's so many options. Bay Harvey, I'm a big fan of Bay Harvey. This kid from Switzerland is a quarterback. He was playing in Cleveland Heights High School, and he's now going to Johns Hopkins University. Anyone who does not know Johns Hopkins, that's one of the top universities in the world for medicine. So shout out to you, Bay. Play football, have some fun, but go network your butt off, because you're going to be around some pretty smart people for the rest of your life.
Johns Hopkins is D3 too, right? I believe.
I think they're D3, yeah. They might have been D1AA at one point, like time ago. I think they're D3, but academically, like, you can't. There's a whole lot of schools that are D1 that cannot compete with that. So I think that's beautiful. But yeah, for me, guys, you guys answered all the questions. I thought that was great. Thank you for your time, Coach Harry, Evan, Mr. Harrington, Mr. Redskin, Mr. Washington team.
Hey, chill with that name, man. Hey, I wanted to add one thing, Coach Harry. You hit it on the head with the development part, and then going to different universities on different levels. I'm a junior college guy myself. Hey, I wasn't good enough to come out of high school and go straight to big time university, but I went to junior college saying, hey, I'm going to continue my football career and see where it takes me. And that's that time to develop. And I think those late bloomers are what guys don't really realize. We all bloom at different times of the year. It's like we all bloom at different times in our life. So it's like, man, go play football somewhere if that's what you truly aspire to do. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I think that's another thing. People are kind of afraid to fail. It's, hey, man, the biggest thing about failure, you have another opportunity to not make those same mistakes again and get better. So, go play wherever you want to play, even if it's in another country. If you're from Switzerland, you want to go play in Prague for Coach, hey, go play. You know what I mean? So just go out there
hey, if you're a baller, I'll take you.
and enjoy and seek the knowledge and learn, man. And shout out to you, Coach, for getting Coach Hawkins on there. I don't know if you know, I played for Coach Hawkins. Actually recruited me in Colorado,
nice.
So that's
nice.
that's my guy. Forever indebted to him, man.
He's a great guy.
Great
I think,
dude.
I think, I mean, we talk about education too. I think opportunities, and this isn't just a plug for what we're doing with the Lions, but I mean, this type of thing, what we're doing with these coaches from the States and throughout Europe, like there's such a disparity. Even like I look at Germany, you know, it's not far from here. Mm-hmm. And outside of those teams at the GFL level, and maybe the top of GFL 2, I mean, there's a huge disparity in coaching. And you have that in so many different countries. So thinking through like different ways to help the game and educate is so huge. And if I look back at like my story of being an athlete and whatnot, like if strictly from the football side of things, I should have gone the JUCO route too. Like if I was just thinking about the football side of things, right? I'm happy how everything worked out. I have an amazing wife and 2 kids, and I'm very thankful for my life in Prague. But looking back at it, there's so many different, like you said, late bloomers bloom differently and whatnot. And I knew I was going to probably have my dad's genes in that, and he grew more after high school anyway. So I if I was strictly on the football side of things, I probably should have done that. You know, a 6'2" free safety who could run a decent 40 and do some stuff on the field has a shot. Not when you start college and you're 5-something and nothing and buried on the depth chart and you get caught in the system. So I think that looking back would be one thing. Who knows what's going to happen with my 2 boys in the next 15 plus years, but yeah, that would be something that at some point, if they wanted to do the football thing and they get passionate about it because their dad is, or maybe they're not going to be passionate about it because their dad is, I'd say, hey, like, you don't have to go this traditional route. If you have any of my genes, you could do this and you could still see something happen at a bigger level. But like you said, everything happens for reasons and whatnot, and you learn from those things, and you could help others not to make those same mistakes, even if you did make a mistake, right? And I think that's so much of being a coach and just being a good human being, right?
No doubt.
So
no doubt.
100%. Well, let's finish it with that. I was going to ask for closing words, but you guys had hit it already about the late bloomers message. Thank you guys again for your time. You're definitely appreciated. Shout out to the Lions. Slight plug with the K. No, I see it on your jacket there. No problem at all. And Washington team, keep rolling or keep chopping, as they say up there in Washington, man. Have a good day, guys.
Hey, thanks, guys. Have a great one.